Hello everyone, so today's video is going to be a brief look into the manga that have been on my TBR list the longest. So these are manga that I have owned for a very long time, I have not read yet, and the purpose of this video is one, just to show you the manga, and two, to also kind of motivate myself to read these because it's kind of ridiculous how long they've been on my TBR for. So we're going to start with the manga that were added to my TBR most recently and then go through until we get to the oldest one, if that makes sense. So the first one on the list is Showa, A History of Japan. This is by Shigeru Mizuki, and it is a completely non-fiction work, I believe. Sometimes Mizuki does some fictionalized versions of non-fiction things, but I think this is entirely non-fiction. But there are 4 of these big volumes focusing on the history of Japan from 1926 to 1989. So I've owned this since August of 2018, and I have not read a single one of these volumes because they are big and they are nonfiction and they're going to be focusing on war and stuff like that. So I just haven't been entirely motivated to get there, but I will at some point. I have been reading a little bit of Shigeru Mizuki recently with Hitaro Works, but I have not gotten to this one. It will happen at some point. I'll probably just have to pull it out of my TBR jar in order to get to it. But for now, it just sits on my shelves unread. Next is something that is an example of how I will buy a series and just keep collecting the volumes until the series is released or finished releasing and then not even read it. Without reading any of the volumes, I haven't read any of the volumes yet, but that series is Oku. This is by Fumi Yoshinaga. As you can see, I bought this volume at a half-price books. I'm not sure if you can see up here the date, but that says June 17th, 2018. So that is when they got this book. Someone sold them the book, and then I bought it in July of 2018. So yeah, I was waiting for this manga to finish releasing in English, and it has recently finished releasing. Volume 19 was recently released. I have not read it though yet. So this remains unread on my shelves. There are 19 volumes in total. I would like to get to it pretty soon. This is kind of a gender role reversal manga, I believe. Let's pull this sticker off together, shall we? Let's do that because it's bothering me kind of. Half-price book stickers aren't difficult to pull off. They're really easy, especially on covers like this. But there you go. Now it's not as yucky on the cover, so there. The next series on this list is Yotsuba. So this is, again, a manga that I have not read any of yet. And it's also a manga I bought in July of 2018. So the way I keep track of this is basically just looking to see when I bought the first volume. That doesn't mean I bought the whole series in July of 2018, which was impossible because they weren't all out yet. But it's just when I bought the first volume. So I bought the first volume of this in July of 2018. It is a slice of life manga, one of the most popular slice of life manga out there, and I have not read any of it yet. I've heard that it's very funny, and I will probably enjoy it, but for now, I'm not sure what I'm waiting for with this. Maybe just when I feel sad, I should read this manga or something. I don't know, I haven't gotten to it yet. Next is probably the series on this list that is the most obscure. I'm not sure I've seen anyone else read this manga, at least not for years. I have not heard anyone recently talk about it, but this is Nameless Asterism. So this is a 5-volume long LGBT manga. I'm not sure it's actually a Yuri manga. I bought it because I thought it was Yuri manga. It might not be. I'm not sure. But the reason this has been on my TBR for so long is because the volumes were so slow to release. So slow. So I had to wait for the 5 volumes to release, and then I never read it. Which is a trend for me, and that's not good. But I do have all the volumes, so I could read it at any point. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I bought this one in March of 2018, so it's been on my TBR for a very long time with me not reading it. The next series is Serif of the End. This has been on my TBR since July of 2017. I have actually read the first volume of this manga, so you should congratulate me on that. However, I only read the first volume. I don't remember anything that happened except for there were vampires, and there were kids, and they might have been in an orphanage. I can't really remember, but I've only read the first volume. I haven't read the second volume or any of the other volumes after that. I own 6 of the volumes, so not that many, and I'm planning on not buying any more until I've read more of the series. It's available on the Shonen Jump app, which is how I'm planning on reading it once I finally get to it. But in the meantime, it will just sit unread on my TBR. This one's not really a priority for me just because it is still ongoing, and it's just not something I think I'll love, but I am interested to finish reading it or continue reading it. And yeah. Also from July of 2017, we have one that has definitely seen a resurgence recently in the last couple months. That is A Bride Story. So, Volume 1, I bought in July of 2017. I only own 8 of the volumes because I'm not entirely sure I'm going to enjoy this manga, but the art is so beautiful that I've picked up quite a few of the volumes. And I have not read this one yet just because, one, it's not finished. Again, that's something that really prevents me from reading things, is if they're not finished yet. This one is not. Also, I'm just not entirely sure I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm willing to give it a chance. I've bought 8 of the volumes, so I really should enjoy it, hopefully. They are expensive volumes. I mean, they are beautiful hardcover volumes, but it is expensive. It is an investment, so I really should read it before I buy any more, which I'm planning to. I haven't bought any more in a while. Next is one that I really have no excuse for except for the fact that it's intimidating. It is a long series. It is a well-loved series. It is a gory, action-packed samurai manga that is Blade of the Immortal. So I have the entire series. You can see I've owned this for a long time because it's in plastic. The other volumes are not in plastic. This one is because I used to wrap my manga. Anyway, I bought this volume in February of 2017. I believe that's when it was released, or pretty soon after it. These new omnibus editions that aren't new anymore because there's a new omnibus edition. Anyway, I bought this recently after it came out, and I have not read any of it at all. I think I bought this around the time that I bought Vagabond, and I have recently, semi-recently, a year ago, maybe, read Vagabond, and I really enjoyed it, but it had been on my TBR unread for years, since 2017. So yeah, this one's just more intimidating to me for some reason, just because it's a long series. These volumes don't seem like they'll be the easiest to read physically, so we'll see. I haven't read it yet. It'll take some kind of motivation to get me to read it, but I will eventually. I'm not going to remove it from my TBR. I'm not going to unhaul it without reading it, because it is basically a modern classic, kind of. I just haven't gotten to it yet, and we'll see how many more years it takes me to get to it. Okay, lastly, the manga that's been on my TBR the longest. I have complained about this manga several times recently, mostly in my TBR jar videos. So if you don't watch those, then you probably haven't heard me complain about this manga, but it is Pandora Hearts. So I've read the first 2 volumes in the series. I read the first one, I don't remember when, and then I read the second one a year after I read the first one, which was a mistake because the series is confusing just in the first 2 volumes. And also, each of these volumes took me an hour to read, and that is way longer than it usually takes me to read manga, especially single volumes like this. So, I have not read this in a long time, and I haven't read the rest of the volumes. There are 24 of them. I have all of them. I know it's a very sought-after series, especially the single volumes. People always ask me how I happen to collect the entire series. I just bought them before they went out of print. Like, I have no special, like, manga hunting abilities. I just bought them before they went out of print. And they just sat on my shelves for years unread, which sometimes ends up being a good thing for me. But I've had this manga on my shelves since December of 2016. 2016! And I've read 2 of the volumes. So, that's great. This is the most intimidating manga to me, just because it's going to take so long for me to read. And it's confusing, and I don't like being confused when I read manga. That's one of the most frustrating things for me, is being confused when I read a manga. I don't like it. So I'm not looking forward to being confused when I read this manga, and I think I will be. But, you know, I'm just going to have to deal with it, because eventually I will have to read this manga. Hopefully sooner rather than later, just so I can stop being afraid of it, I guess. But yeah, this is the manga that's been on my TBR for the longest. So yeah, those are all the manga I wanted to discuss with you today. Let me know which of these you've read, which ones you think I should get to sooner rather than later. They're honestly all probably going to be pushed back for at least a couple more months, unless the TBR jar decides that I need to read them. But yeah, I wanted to do this video because I wanted to kind of have this discussion. I feel like I see this conversation happening more on the booktube side of things rather than the manga tube side of things, where people will talk about the books that have been on their TBR for a very long time and kind of get motivated to read them. I feel like on the manga tube side of things, it's more of like, here are the things I'm buying and reading right away, and we don't really talk about things that sit on your TBR for a long time. Or maybe it's just because I'm the only one who has all these manga on my TBR for years and years and I haven't read them. That might be the case. But anyway, let me know what you think of this video down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!